Hello, welcome to Checkmate. Today we're diving into a topic that's at the heart of global news: nuclear energy, uranium, and the threat of a global energy crisis. What would happen if the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil flows, were shut down? How would this impact economies? And what role does nuclear energy play in all this? If you want to understand how these issues are connected and what they mean for the future, stick around until the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a thing. Let's get started. First, let's talk about uranium and nuclear energy. Uranium is a mineral abundant on Earth, far more common than gold or silver. It's the backbone of nuclear energy, a source that generates electricity without emitting carbon dioxide, making it a key player in the fight against climate change. Countries like Brazil, France, and Japan already use nuclear energy to produce a significant portion of their electricity. Nuclear energy has huge advantages. Stability, because unlike solar or wind, it doesn't depend on the weather. Efficiency, since a single kilogram of uranium can generate as much energy as several tons of coal. And low emissions, being one of the cleanest sources in terms of greenhouse gases. But it's not all perfect. Nuclear energy has risks, like accidents, think Chernobyl or Fukushima, and the management of radioactive waste. However, many experts believe that with modern technology, these risks are manageable. Plus, uranium is used for peaceful purposes, like generating electricity or medical research, though there's always the fear it could be used for nuclear weapons. And here's where a hot topic comes in: Iran's nuclear program. While Tehran insists its program is peaceful, recent attacks on its nuclear facilities have raised alarms. This brings us to the next point: the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow 33-kilometer waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to the rest of the world. Nearly 20% of the world's oil and a third of its liquefied natural gas pass through here. It's quite literally the most critical bottleneck in global energy trade. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and Iran rely on this route to export their oil, while economies like China, India, Japan, and South Korea depend on it to import it. Now, imagine this: Iran, in response to attacks on its nuclear facilities, decides to close the Strait of Hormuz. What would happen? First, an immediate spike in oil prices. The Brent crude barrel could surpass $100 an hour, as we've already seen in markets after recent Iranian threats. Second, a logistical crisis. Without viable alternative routes, producing countries couldn't export, and importing countries would face shortages. Third, a global economic impact. Transportation, fuel, and product costs would soar, fueling inflation worldwide. The most affected countries would be in Asia, especially China, which imports over 90% of Iran's oil, followed by India, Japan, and South Korea. But the impact wouldn't be limited to Asia. Europe and the United States would also feel the price hikes, affecting everything from fuel to everyday consumer goods. Why hasn't Iran closed the strait yet? Because it would also be economic suicide for them. Iran relies on exporting its oil through this route, and a blockade would anger its allies, like China. Plus, a closure could trigger a military response from the United States, which maintains a strong naval presence in the region. So how do we avoid a global energy crisis? Here are some solutions. First, energy diversification. Countries like Japan and South Korea are already investing in renewables, like solar and wind, to reduce their dependence on oil. Second, investment in nuclear energy. Nuclear power can be a stable and clean solution. Brazil, for instance, has uranium and the technology to expand its nuclear program safely. The third, diplomacy. The international community, led by powers like China and the UN, must mediate to prevent escalation in the conflict with Iran and ensure the Strait of Hormuz remains open. Fourth, strategic reserves. Countries like South Korea and Japan maintain oil reserves for up to 200 days, which could cushion a temporary crisis. Nuclear energy in particular could be a game changer. Like fossil fuels, it doesn't rely on vulnerable maritime routes like the Strait of Hormuz. However, it requires investment in safety and regulation to gain public trust. The world is at a crossroads. Uranium and nuclear energy could be crucial allies in tackling the climate crisis, in reducing our reliance on routes like the Strait of Hormuz. But geopolitical tensions remind us how fragile our energy security is. If the Strait of Hormuz closes, the consequences would be devastating. Inflation, shortages, and a direct hit to your wallet. The solution lies in diversifying, innovating, and above all, pursuing peace. What do you think? Is nuclear energy the future? Or should we focus on other alternatives? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this analysis, share the video and subscribe to Checkmate for more content on the issues shaping our world. See you in the